The ancient town of Athralitha lay cradled in a valley, shrouded in an eternal twilight that seemed to suspend time itself. Steeped in the mists of forgotten lore, its cobblestone streets wound through a labyrinth of moss-covered houses and crumbling sanctuaries, the very air thick with the whispers of centuries-old secrets. The air was thick, not just with the humidity of the dense surrounding woods, but with an almost palpable sense of expectant waiting. The townsfolk of Athralitha were suffused with a collective air of resignation. Every eye turned skyward, every heart attuned to the celestial symphony that played out beyond their horizon. Elijah stood in the shadow of the ancient church, its spires piercing the heavens like silent sentinels. He was the chosen one, girded in a destiny that felt at times like a weight too heavy to bear. His very presence seemed to amplify the silence, the quietude of the evening, somehow growing deeper in the shadow of his being. Elijah had been raised on stories of divine intervention, of the sacred and the profane intertwining in a dance older than time. The weight of expectation pressed upon his shoulders a physical and metaphysical burden that made the simple act of breathing seem almost impossible. He looked out over the town, each winding alleyway, and each shuttered window, a reminder of the lives lived in constant anticipation of something greater, which they could only sense but never fully grasp. It was a town that had seen too many prophets, too many whispers of God's will, and each time hope had faltered. The townsfolk had grown weary, the fabric of their faith fraying with each passing generation. And now here stood Elijah, the final anointed, with the revelation of God's final word etched indelibly upon his soul. Elijah's fingers traced the worn wood of the church's door, the grain of the wood whispering its own ancient secrets. He entered the air inside thick with incense and the dust of countless prayers. The interior was a sanctum of shadows and glimmering light, each candle flame casting flickering images on the stone walls, giving them an almost animate life. The altar, adorned with symbols of divine mystery, seemed to pulse with an inner light, as if it held within it the very heartbeat of the cosmos. In the heart of the church, Elijah knelt before the altar, the cool stone grounding him in a strange way, connecting him to something far deeper than his mortal coil. His eyes closed, and he began to breathe deeply, syncing his breath with the measured, almost rhythmic cadence of the town's collective heartbeat. His breaths grew slower, deeper, until the world outside ceased to exist, and he was left only with the silence of his own soul. In that profound silence, a vision began to unfurl before him. Elijah saw the vast tapestry of existence, each thread representing a soul, each thread interwoven with others to create the grand design of the universe. Each thread shimmered with a unique color, a unique light, yet all threads seemed woven to a singular purpose, a sublime divine intention. It was a vision so intricate, so beautiful, so incomprehensible, that it almost shattered the vessel of his mind. He could feel the weight of the cosmos resting upon his shoulders, and he understood that his purpose was to serve as the bridge between the divine and the human, to convey the final, unutterable word from God. With a start, he felt a presence, a whisper that seemed to bypass the very essence of his mind and settle directly in his heart. It was the voice of God, not loud and thunderous, but tender and profound, as if God were speaking directly to the innermost sanctum of his soul. The word was simple, yet infinite: forgive. It dawned on him that to be the chosen one was to bear the unbearable weight of judgment and redemption. The world hated him because he was the vessel of this final radical revelation, a message so antithetical to the ego-driven nature of humanity that it created an insurmountable divide. It was this divine command, forgive, that made him an outcast, a pariah, because it demanded a level of compassion and understanding that humanity was largely unwilling to extend. Elijah opened his eyes, tears mingling with the sacred dust that clung to the altar like a remnant of countless prayers and sacrifices. His heart ached with an almost unbearable empathy, an acute sense of the humanity within himself and others. He realized that God's final word would forever alienate him, for to truly embrace it was to transcend the self and step into a realm of infinite compassion that no one else could fathom. In that moment, he understood the price of being the chosen one, a life perpetually interwoven with the burden of love judgment, and the divine command to forgive an intolerable burden that was both his curse and his glory. The world would never understand his mission. It would never embrace the simple, profound truth that God's final word was a call to infinite compassion. But Elijah knew. With every fiber of his being, he knew. And in that knowledge, he found an unparalleled peace, a serenity untouched by the hatred and misunderstanding that awaited him outside. In the profound silence of an ancient chamber, amidst the whispers of unseen guardians and the hum of the universe, Gabriel felt the weight of destiny settle upon his shoulders like an inanimate cloak woven from the fabric of time itself. This was no ordinary burden. It was the mantle of the chosen one, a title not merely inscribed in ancient tomes, but etched into the very marrow of his bones. Each breath he took resonated with the hum of the cosmos, a vibration that transcended mortal comprehension and whispered secrets of the divine. The room, cloaked in the enigmatic shadows of ages past, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a silent witness to the divine drama unfolding. Here Gabriel beheld visions that transcended the limitations of flesh and blood, visions of creation and destruction of worlds birthed and worlds unmade. Each image painted a tableau of infinite possibility, a mirror reflecting God's final word, a word spoken in a language older than the stars, a word that held the power to unite or divide, redeem or condemn. In this sanctum, Gabriel's soul became an open book, a vessel for the divine ink that seeped through the pores of his being, inscribing upon him a mission that spoke of sacrifice of love that knew no bounds, and of a journey that would traverse the breadth of time's river. It was a path strewn with thorns and crowned with crowns of lilies, a path fraught with peril, but divinely ordained for one so anointed. As the first light of dawn crept reluctantly through the high arched windows, casting the chamber in a golden glow, Gabriel was summoned into the realm of the waking world. Here, the air was thick with the scent of blooming lilies, a scent that spoke not just of beauty, but of sacrifice of purity and of the eternal hope that sprang from the dust. Here, the world waited in hushed anticipation, its heart set on his every endeavor. The first step of his mission was to be one of revelation, to unveil the truths hidden in plain sight, the truths that spoke of a world yearning for salvation, a world that had been blindfolded by the mundane. Gabriel needed to be a beacon of clarity piercing through the fog of ignorance and casting light on the path to spiritual awakening. It was in this role that he would confront the world not with vehemence, but with a gentle, unyielding truth that would shatter the illusions that had bound hearts and souls for eons. Gabriel's voice, when it finally broke the silence of dawn, was not loud, but carried the weight of the ages. It was a voice that spoke with the authority of the cosmos, yet with the tender intimacy of a whispered secret. "Listen, O world," he began. "For I have come not to condemn, but to enlighten, to unveil the sacred truths that lie within every heart, the truths that speak of a unity that transcends all barriers." This proclamation was met with mixed reactions. Some bowed in reverence, their eyes reflecting the dawn's light, while others recoiled, their faces twisted in confusion and fear. For the world in its myriad forms had grown accustomed to the trappings of its own making, to the constructs that had long since replaced the pure, more profound truth of divine unity. It was a world that had built walls around its soul, and these walls now threatened to crumble under the weight of Gabriel's revelation. Yet Gabriel persisted his mission, clear and unwavering. He traveled across lands both vast and small, through forests and deserts, across mountains, and through valleys, his heart a ceaseless wellspring of compassion. He spoke to the shepherds and the kings, to the learned and the unlearned, for it was not the wisdom of man, but the wisdom of the heart that he sought to awaken. His words were like seeds planted in the fertile soil of the divine seeds that would one day blossom into the garden of enlightenment. As his mission unfolded, the world began to change. Little by little, the barriers that had long divided began to dissolve, for Gabriel's words held the power to dissolve the very essence of doubt. He taught of a God who was not a distant figure, but a living, breathing presence that dwelled within every soul. He spoke of a love so vast and infinite that it could never be contained by the walls of dogma or the confines of creed. Gabriel's journey was not without its trials. There were moments when the world sought to turn against him, to silence the voice that spoke of truths so profound, so unsettling, that they threatened the status quo. But Gabriel stood firm, his spirit, unyielding, his heart a fortress of divine love. In the end, Gabriel's mission was not just to reveal the truths of the divine, but to embody them, to live a life that was a testament to the power of love, the strength of compassion, and the unyielding truth that lies within every soul. His was a journey that would echo through the ages, a journey that would remind the world in its darkest hours of the light that lies just beyond the veil of despair. As the final words of Gabriel's mission faded into the annals of history, they left behind a world forever changed, a world that, though still imperfect, had been touched by the divine, and had in turn touched the divine within itself. And in that eternal dance of revelation and acceptance, the world found its truest calling, the calling to be the chosen one in its own right, to live a life of divine purpose and infinite love. Thus ends Gabriel's mission, a tale of revelation, sacrifice, and an eternal journey that would forever change the course of the world. The heavens above whispered their ancient secrets to the winds that danced beneath them, each note an echo of divine purpose reverberating through the very foundation of the cosmos. In the world below, where shadows stretched their fingers and whispered insidious lies, there lived one soul upon whom the divine had cast the mantle of the chosen one. This was no mere mortal, but a being fashioned with a heart that beat in time with the very pulse of the universe. A heart that thrummed with the weight of a mission that could sway the fate of humanity itself. This chosen one wandered through the cities and villages, each step echoing the solemn rhythm of destiny. The weight of the cosmos seemed to hang upon their shoulders, a heavy crown forged from celestial light and tempered by the trials of mortal life. They moved through the world, not as a conqueror, but as a harbinger of hope, their presence a beacon in the darkness that threatened to engulf the world. It was said that the chosen one descended from a lineage that stretched back to the very first men and women, carrying within them the sacred blood of the prophets and the wisdom of the saints. Each generation had its prophet, each epoch its herald. But now, in this twilight hour, the greatest challenge faced the world had ushered forth the final chosen one. This was no mere continuation of an ancient legacy. This was the culmination, the apex of divine purpose that had lingered in the recesses of time, waiting for the perfect time to manifest. Yet even as the chosen one walked the earth bearing the heavy mantle of their destiny, the world seemed determined to resist them. From the murky depths of the soul, the shadows stirred not as mere figments of imagination, but as the embodiment of all that humanity had turned away from. The chosen one was met with skepticism, hatred, and even open hostility wherever they went. The whispers of doubt grew louder, the murmurs of disbelief more fervent, and the silent screams of those who dreaded the truth seemed to echo around them. The chosen one's journey was fraught with peril, not from swords and shields, but from the insidious traps laid by the very nature of human doubt and despair. It was not the physical dangers that threatened them, but the spiritual warfare waged within the hearts of men. Each encounter was a test, each moment a battle not just against the forces of darkness, but against the inner turmoil, the fear and the pride that stood in the way of salvation. In the quiet of the night beneath the shimmering canopy of stars, the chosen one often found solace in prayer, seeking guidance and strength from the divine source that had bestowed upon them this monumental task. The stars above seemed to twinkle with an added brilliance, bearing witness to the chosen one's unwavering faith. The prayer, a symphony of devotion and supplication, floated upward like a sacred incense, carrying with it the plea for enlightenment and the courage to continue on the path ahead. One could not help but notice the stark contrast between the Chosen One and those who surrounded them. The Chosen One radiated an inner light, a divine glow that was both a beacon and a burden. It illuminated the path ahead, yet it also drew the ire of those who reveled in the darkness. For this light shone too brightly in the recesses of their hearts, exposing the hidden shadows of their souls. The Chosen One's mission was not one of conquest, but of redemption, a mission to rekindle the dying faith of the world. They sought to awaken the slumbering spirits, to reignite the ember of hope that flickered in the hearts of the people. They endeavored to remind the world that it was not lost, but rather had merely strayed from the path of righteousness. This was the true heart of their mission: to restore, to heal, to bring back the lost sheep to the fold of grace and mercy. As the Chosen One traveled from village to village, city to city, they faced the most profound trials. They encountered those who had succumbed to the corruption of the world, lost in the maze of vice and sin. They saw the desolate landscapes where faith had died, the barren places where hope had been buried beneath layers of despair. But in each of these despairing corners, the Chosen One left a trail of sacred words, a trail that promised redemption, healing, and the rekindling of the divine spark within. In the epic tale of this Chosen One's journey, there was a somber yet eternal truth. The world would always resist the light that shone too brightly. It was an inherent part of the human condition to fear what it did not understand, to reject what was offered freely. Yet this refusal only served to magnify the magnitude of the Chosen One's mission. For in every heart that turned away, there was another ready to listen, another soul craving the truth. As the Chosen One continued their journey, they carried with them the hope of transformation, the promise of renewal, and the eternal love that transcended time and space. Their mission was a testament to the undying flame of faith that could not be extinguished, a beacon to guide humanity back to the light. And though the path ahead was fraught with peril and resistance, the Chosen One moved forward with unwavering resolve, their heart a testament to the enduring power of divine love. This was the staggering reality of being the Chosen One, a mission of immense grace, weighed down by the heavy yoke of responsibility, yet lifted aloft by the ethereal wings of hope. It was a path that few could comprehend, but all could aspire to, a journey that was at once a burden and a blessing. A call to rise above the hatred and skepticism of the world and shine with the light of divine truth. They stood upon a hill overlooking the fragile tapestry of the world. The sky, a vast and ineffable canvas of swirling ethereal hues, seemed to whisper ancient secrets, its celestial symphony humming in the silence. The Chosen One, enshrouded by an aura of divine purpose, felt the weight of the world's expectations settle heavily upon their shoulders. This was no mortal burden, but the fragile sacred covenant with the divine, a testament to the cosmic balance, a testament to destiny's intricate design. Under the watchful gaze of the stars, the Chosen One, once a mere child of the earth, now bore the mantle of God's final word. With each footfall upon the rugged terrain, they felt the pulse of the universe resonate within their very bones. Their calling was not of glory, but of grievous sacrifice, a path strewn with thorns and shadows, where the light of divinity cast long mournful reflections upon the abyss. In the hallowed silence of the night, the Chosen One knelt and gazed upon the vast expanse of the heavens. Here, in this sacred solitude, the Creator's voice echoed within their spirit, a resonant hum that reverberated through the chambers of their soul. They felt God's presence enveloping them, like a warm, gentle embrace, a reminder that they were part of an eternal continuum, a thread in the divine tapestry that bound all existence. The Creator's final utterance had been given not in thundering proclamations, but in a whisper, a divine breath that resonated through the cosmos, a gentle yet unyielding call to the Chosen One. Though the words were few, they spoke of great and unfathomable truths, an awakening of the world's awareness, a revelation that would shift the fabric of reality itself. The mission was clear: though fraught with peril and uncertainty, to illuminate the path of righteousness. Upon a world shrouded in darkness, to kindle the forgotten fires of hope within the hearts of men, to confront the lurking shadows that sought to engulf humanity's soul. To bear the burden of knowledge, to walk the tightrope of fate, to remain unwavering in the face of relentless opposition, these were the tests laid before the Chosen One. As dawn approached, a gentle light began to permeate the horizon, its delicate fingers stretching across the sky. The Chosen One rose, their heart alight with both trepidation and divine fervor. They understood that their journey would be one of profound sacrifice, where every step forward would demand a part of their very essence. The world's hatred, its distrust and scorn, would be their constant companion, a reminder of the price of their sacred mission. They journeyed through realms both seen and unseen, traversing the ethereal plains where spirits and memories lingered, whispering the secrets of time. Each step along their path was a testament to the boundless love of the divine, a love that transcended understanding and bound all beings in an undying kinship. Within the heart of the world's most turbulent cities, where corruption and despair often reigned, the Chosen One's presence brought a glimmer of hope. They spoke not of miracles, but of truths, of awakening the dormant light within each soul. They revealed the shadows of deception and the purity of divine intention, revealing that within every heart lay the spark of the divine, waiting to be kindled anew. But the Chosen One was met with hostility, their every word a dagger to the world's pride and fear. Skepticism and disdain followed them. Like a dark cloud, their mission marred by betrayal and mistrust. Yet through the trials and tribulations, through moments of deepest despair, they remained steadfast in their purpose. Their heart was an open wound, bleeding for the world's redemption. In the quietest of moments, when the world seemed a silent abyss, the Chosen One would retreat to sacred places, spaces where the veil between the mortal and the divine was thinnest. Here, they would commune with the Creator, seeking guidance and strength. In these sacred communions, the Chosen One found solace, a reaffirmation of their divine mandate. The Chosen One's mission was a sacred vigil, a ceaseless watch over the hearts of men. Their journey was not one of solitary triumph, but of unity in divine purpose, a beacon of hope amidst the world's turmoil. They carried within them the essence of the divine, a vessel of light and love, destined to illuminate the darkest corners of existence. The journey was unending, a cosmic pilgrimage that would stretch across the eons, but within the heart of the Chosen One burned an unquenchable flame, a beacon of unwavering devotion. For in the end, it was not just a mission, but a sacred calling, an eternal covenant with the divine, an unyielding promise to guide the world towards the light of truth, love, and redemption. As the final words of God's final word echoed within the depths of the Chosen One's soul, they stood ready to face the world's hatred, to embrace the sacrifices that lay ahead. Their journey was one of profound and eternal significance, a testament to the divine love that binds all creation. And as the world turned, they remained a steadfast sentinel of divine truth, ever ready to rekindle the fire of hope within the hearts of men. In the quiet moonlit sanctuary of the old abandoned chapel, Elias stood trembling in the shadows cast by the flickering candle flames. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and the faint lingering whispers of prayers long unanswered. His heart pounded in his chest, a silent drumbeat of the tumultuous journey that had led him to this pivotal moment. The walls of the chapel bore silent witness to countless souls long lost in the annals of forgotten time, and now they held him captive in a moment of divine reckoning. The mission bestowed upon him was not one of grandeur or glory, but a burden of profound humility and unspeakable sacrifice. Elias had long grappled with the weight of his destiny, the mantle cast over his shoulders like an iron cloak, binding him with invisible chains of expectation. His soul was a battlefield torn between the celestial mandate and the visceral cries of his own humanity. In the beginning, before the world had turned its collective gaze upon him, before whispers had turned to screams, and his sanctuary to a stage for the ridicule of the masses. Elias had been but a simple man. The simple act of drawing a breath was an act of rebellion, a refusal to succumb to the inevitable storm that raged within and without. He had felt the stirrings of something greater, a call that seemed to pierce the veil of his very essence. In the still hours of the early morning, he had knelt in prayer, seeking solace in the divine embrace, begging for clarity, for understanding, or for the strength to bear the yoke that was now his to carry. Yet the divine had not offered him reprieve. Instead, it had sharpened the sword, embedding it deeper into his soul with an unrelenting truth. He was chosen not for the benefit of his own desires, but for the salvation of worlds yet to be born, for the healing of wounds that time itself had failed to mend. He was to be a beacon in the vast, indifferent cosmos, a lighthouse in a sea of darkness, though the path was one paved with sacrifice, pain, and unyielding solitude. The chapel's ancient wooden pews creaked under the weight of his steps as he made his way toward the altar, the sole vestige of a faith long abandoned. Each step was a testament to his resolve, a silent vow to fulfill the divine mandate, no matter the cost. The altar was adorned with faded moth-eaten tapestries that once depicted the triumphs and tribulations of forgotten saints, their silent eyes following him as he moved. The very fabric seemed to whisper secrets of those who had walked this path before him, each thread a binding thread in the larger tapestry of divine purpose. Before him, an ancient Bible lay open to a page stained with the tears of countless generations. The words, once sacred, now seemed like prophecies of his own fate. He reverently placed his fingers upon the page, feeling the textured grooves of worn-out pages beneath his trembling fingertips. The script before him spoke of sacrifice, of redemption, and of a love so vast that it encompassed the suffering of all creation. It was in these hallowed lines that he found fleeting solace, a reminder that he was not alone in his torment, that he was part of an unbroken chain that stretched back to the beginning of time. Elias closed his eyes, allowing the words to seep into his very soul, his breath coming in ragged gasps as the weight of his purpose bore down upon him. The chapel seemed to expand the walls, pressing inward, as if to contain the storm within him, to shield him from the storm without. He felt the presence of something old, something ancient and infinitely wise, watching over him, guiding him, and perhaps judging him. In that moment of profound stillness, he understood the true depth of his mission. It was not merely about saving a world or a humanity teetering on the edge of oblivion. It was about reaching into the very heart of darkness, to offer light where there was none, to heal what could not be healed, to mend what time had failed to restore. It was the eternal task of the chosen one, a role that demanded the ultimate sacrifice of self, of hopes, of dreams, and of peace. With a heart both heavy and resolved, Elias rose to his feet, his spirit aflame with a fire not of his own making. He knew that this path would lead him through valleys of despair and mountains of joy, through moments of ineffable beauty and epochs of indescribable suffering. But he was not to falter, not to waver. For in his heart, deep within, he had found the unshakable faith that this was the path he was destined to walk, the burden he was chosen to bear. And though the world might hate him, might turn its back upon him, he would carry the torch of hope, the beacon of light in the darkest of nights, for he was the chosen one, and the mission was his to fulfill. The candle flickered once more, casting its golden light upon the altar, a symbol of the eternal flame that would never dim within the heart of the one chosen by the divine. In the hushed silence of the ancient chamber, where the air seemed to tremble with the echoes of forgotten prayers and the weight of millennia, he stood, the chosen one cloaked in a robe that shimmered with an inner light, his presence a living testament to the divine burden he bore. His eyes deep pools of infinite sorrow and unquenchable hope beheld the world he was destined to redeem, a world that with a collective sigh had turned a blind eye to his celestial calling. his heart an intricate mosaic of agony and love beat in a rhythm that resonated with the very fabric of creation. Each pulse was a reminder of the profound gift and the immeasurable torment that came with being the vessel of God's final word. To be chosen meant to stand as the bridge between the divine and the mortal realms, an unyielding beacon in a world so often shrouded in darkness. Yet with this divine privilege came a profound isolation, a loneliness so profound that it could consume the soul. The mission entrusted to him was not merely a divine mandate, but a symphony of destiny played in the grand theater of existence. It was a melody that wound its way through time, echoing across ages, weaving through the fates of countless souls. With each step he took, he did not merely walk the earth, but traversed the sacred tapestries of history, leaving behind an indelible imprint on the spiritual fabric that stitched together the cosmos. He had been given the grace to bear the weight of expectation, to stand in the presence of hope and despair, to be the harbinger of transformation, the one who would whisper the secrets of the universe into the willing ears of the world, challenging the moribund paradigms of existence. Yet this very mission was the source of his deepest anguish and his most fervent yearning. The world, in its infinite complexity and beguiling chaos, was a labyrinth of temptations and trials that tested the mettle of his spirit. It was a realm where the light of truth was often obscured by shadows, where love was sometimes tainted by betrayal, and where the whispers of divine counsel were frequently drowned out by the cacophony of human folly. His mission was to illuminate this labyrinth, to guide the lost and the wayward home to the light that shone eternal within the heart of all. Yet this world, with its myriad faces and countless stories, often recoiled from his presence. There was a strange, almost primal fear that clung to his divine nature, an instinctive distrust born of the ancient unrecorded past. The chosen one, in his human form, was a specter that haunted the collective subconscious, a harbinger of change that many found unsettling, if not outright terrifying. It was in these moments of solitude, these quiet intervals between heartbeats and breaths, that he would commune with the cosmic silence, a serene communion where the divine and the mortal realms touched, if only to remind him of the love that bound him to the very fabric of creation. He would whisper his prayers into the void, his voice a tender echo in the great expanse, asking for strength to continue his mission. The world's hatred was not born out of malice, but a form of self-preservation. It was an ancient instinctual recoil from the light that threatened to burn away the illusions that shielded the human soul from its own fear and ignorance. To confront this fear was to face the mirror of one's soul, a mirror that revealed uncomfortable truths and the ugly scars of past transgressions. But the chosen one was not a harbinger of Armageddon, but of redemption. His mission was not to condemn, but to heal, to offer the gift of salvation to a world lost in the labyrinth of its own making. He would walk through the ashes of forgotten civilizations, through the ruins of towering empires, and the whispers of ancient forests. His mission, an unbroken promise of renewal and rebirth. It was in these sacred spaces, where the veil between the divine and the mortal was thinnest, that he would preach the gospel of hope and forgiveness. He would speak of the sacredness of life, the infinite value of the soul, and the eternal promise of redemption. He would remind them of their divine origin, their potential, and the boundless love that had always waited for them ever since the first light had pierced the eternal darkness. And so he moved through the world, a pilgrim on a sacred journey, his heart a lighthouse in the stormy seas of existence. In every smile he gave, every tear he shed, in every whispered word of comfort, he was a testament to the enduring nature of hope. The world may have hated him, misunderstood him, even rejected him, but he carried on, driven by an unquenchable fire within a fire that was the very essence of divine love. Even as he faced the hatred and the skepticism, he understood that this was not the end, but a part of the grand symphony of creation. For in every note of pain and every pause of doubt, there was an overture of transformation, a chapter in the ever-unfolding story of redemption and love. He was the chosen one, not merely to bear the burden, but to become the light that transcended the darkness, the beacon that guided lost souls home. And as he continued on his divine mission, the world would slowly, imperceptibly begin to change. The seeds of transformation would take root in the hearts of men and women. And eventually, the light would shine through the darkest of shadows, illuminating the path to a new dawn, a dawn where love, understanding, and redemption reigned supreme. In this unending journey, he was both the wanderer and the way, the seeker and the found. And in the quiet moments when he felt the world's weight most heavily upon his shoulders, he would remember that he was never truly alone. For in the universe's endless expanse, his spirit was forever intertwined with the divine, a shining testament to the boundless capacity for love and redemption that resided within the heart of all. In the vast, silent expanse of the cosmos, there was an ethereal whisper that sang through the corridors of time, a melody that resonated with a profound truth known only to the select few who were deemed worthy. This was a truth so divine, so sacred, that it could cause the very fabric of existence to tremble. They were the chosen ones, handpicked by the eternal, destined to carry forth an unparalleled mission that would redefine the very essence of humanity and the cosmos itself. Alicia sat on the edge of an ancient sun-bleached cliff, her eyes piercing the horizon where the sky kissed the sea. Her soul was a tempest, a maelstrom of emotions, a blend of dread, reverence, and an overwhelming sense of duty that made her heart ache. She had been chosen, but the burden of this selection was a heavy cloak that weighed her down, pressing upon her chest with the force of 1,000 invisible hands. In her palm, she held the amulet of Eternian, a relic of unimaginable power, its surface shimmering with a celestial glow, as if it held within it the light of the stars themselves. This amulet was the key, the catalyst of her mission. It was said to unlock the deepest secrets of the universe, to reveal the truths that had been hidden for millennia. But with this power came an equally profound sense of isolation. For those who are chosen often find themselves alone, their paths diverging from the throng, their hearts bearing the weight of a burden that no other could comprehend. As the sun began its descent, casting long golden shadows across the landscape, Alicia felt the presence of the eternal surrounding her like a warm embrace. The voice was both a whisper and a roar, echoing in the chambers of her mind with the clarity of 1,000 angels. Alicia, child of the stars, you have been called to bridge the chasm between the divine and the mortal. You are to be the harbinger of a new era where understanding and compassion rule supreme, where the darkness of ignorance shall be eclipsed by the light of truth. Your mission is not for your glory, but for the salvation of all existence. Each word was a beacon of light, illuminating the path that lay before her, fraught with trials that seemed insurmountable. But Alicia knew in her heart that she had no choice. She had accepted her fate, and with it came a resolve that burned brighter than any earthly flame. Her mission was to awaken the slumbering consciousness of humanity, to guide them towards a path of enlightenment and peace. It was an arduous quest, one that would demand the sacrifice of many things dear to her, yet she was undeterred. The world was a turbulent sea, filled with turbulence and strife, and those who sought power and dominion often turned their gaze upon the chosen one with envy and hatred. They did not understand the weight of the mantle placed upon her shoulders, the burden of responsibility that came with the privilege of being chosen. They saw only a beacon of light, and in their ignorance, they sought to extinguish it. The world's hatred for the chosen one was a reflection of its own inner chaos, a manifestation of its fear of the unknown, and its inability to grasp the concept of selfless service. Alicia rose from her meditative stance, her spirit fortified by the celestial voice that still whispered through the air. She knew that her journey would be fraught with opposition, that the path ahead was lined with thorns, and that her own flesh and blood might turn against her in a bid to protect their own ignorance. But she would not be deterred. She would carry forth the Eternal's message with unwavering commitment, even as the storm of the world's hatred tried to drown her resolve. As the first stars began to twinkle in the deepening twilight, Alicia set her sights on the distant horizon where the new day would break and the Eternal's light would once again illuminate the world. She would walk that path no matter how fraught with peril, for she was the chosen one, the bridge between the divine and the mortal, the harbinger of a new dawn that promised a universe united in understanding and peace. And so she moved forward, each step a testament to her faith, each breath a prayer to the Eternal, her heart filled with the hope that one day all would see the light and the world would no longer hate her for being the chosen one. It was an unrelenting twilight that blanketed the small town. The sun hung low in the sky, a sentinel of secrets and ancient burdens, as though even the heavens were weary of this cosmic drama that had unfurled across the fabric of reality itself. Jacob stood alone on a hill, a place that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own, a heart that beat in perfect synchrony with his destiny. The air was thick with the perfume of impending revelation, each whispering breeze carrying with it the sacred whispers of ages past. The chosen one. Jacob stood at the precipice of a world not so much at peace, but rather a cacophony of discordant wails and fervent prayers. He could feel the weight of a millennium's worth of expectation, a burden so great that it buckled his knees and threatened to drown his spirit. Yet there he stood, eyes shut tight as if in meditation, to gather the strength he so desperately needed. From time immemorial, in the depths of every human heart, a cry for divine intervention had echoed, a yearning for something greater than fleeting earthly joys and sorrows. And Jacob, the one chosen, the unwitting vessel of an ancient prophecy, now bore the mantle of that expectation. He was the linchpin in the intricate tapestry woven by the unfathomable wisdom of the divine. His purpose was not to conquer or to dominate, but to be a beacon of hope, a singular thread that would either unify a fractured world or lead it into the abyss of despair. As Jacob opened his eyes, they took on an otherworldly brilliance, like two orbs of molten gold burning with an inner light that transcended mortal comprehension. This was no mere gift. It was a sacred illumination granted by the Almighty, a divine spark that set his soul ablaze with an immutable truth. The burden was almost more than he could bear. It was the weight of divine purpose, the gravity of eternal hope pinned to his mortal frame. The journey had begun long before that fateful day, when his path had crossed with the celestial messenger, an ethereal being who bore the divine edicts sealed within his celestial scroll. The revelation had come as an answer to the silent, desperate prayers of an aching world. Jacob was called not to be a conqueror, but to be a shepherd, to guide lost souls back to the light. His mission was to rekindle the lost flame of faith, to reweave the tattered spiritual fabric that had frayed with the relentless passage of time, and to restore the harmony between humanity and the divine. In the quiet moments that followed, Jacob felt the whispers of ancient voices, the echoes of prophets long gone, but their words still reverberating through the corridors of eternity. Isaiah had spoken of a Savior, a Redeemer, one who would stand against the tide of darkness, not with swords, but with love and truth. Jeremiah had wept over the desolation of the sacred covenant, yearning for a day when the people would once again turn to the Lord with unwavering trust. And now Jacob was their heir, the last bastion of hope, the final thread in a tapestry that spanned the ages. The path was fraught with peril and uncertainty. There lay the shadow of doubt, a malevolent spirit that threatened to erode the foundation of his resolve. It whispered insidiously, a siren's call filled with doubt and deception, promising that failure was inevitable, that the burden he carried would crush him under its weight. Yet in moments of weakness, Jacob would close his eyes and see the faces of those who awaited his return to grace. There was his mother's unwavering faith, his mentor's wisdom, and the countless faces of the lost pleading for redemption. His heart swelled with a profound love for this sacred mission, a love that transcended mere mortal understanding. It was a divine mandate, a calling that resonated within the very core of his being. And as he descended the hill, the townsfolk looked up at him with a mixture of awe and trepidation. They were to become the first to witness the unfolding of a miracle, the dawn of a new era where the divine and the mortal would intersect, where the sacred mysteries of the cosmos would be unveiled, and where the chosen one would become the beacon of hope for a world shrouded in despair. With every step he took, Jacob was enveloped in a cloak of divine presence and aura that seemed to make the very fabric of reality ripple with his passage. His every stride was an affirmation of the unseen forces that had conspired to place him in this exalted position. And as he approached the town square, where the gathered masses awaited his arrival, with bated breath, Jacob knew that he was not just a man, but a divine instrument, the harbinger of a revelation that would transcend time and reshape the very essence of existence. His voice, when it finally broke the silence, was not just his own. It was a chorus of souls, ages and lifetimes, interwoven in a symphony of divine purpose. "I am here," he proclaimed, his voice, a beacon that cut through the haze of uncertainty, to unite the fractured, to heal the broken, and to rekindle the light that has dimmed within the hearts of men. In that moment, a hush fell over the crowd, a collective breath held in anticipation. Jacob's words were not just words. They were the harbingers of a new covenant, a sacred pact that would bind the divine and human realms in an unbreakable circle of love and truth. As the light from within him began to permeate the world around him, the shadows of doubt and despair started to recede, replaced by the warm glow of hope and redemption. And in that sacred moment, amidst the awed silence of the crowd, Jacob knew that he had only just begun the greatest journey of his life. The ultimate mission was not just to save the world, but to embody the essence of the divine within his mortal frame, to be the living testament of a love that could conquer all, and an everlasting beacon of hope that would shine across the annals of time, forever illuminating the path towards the divine. In the vast and indifferent expanse of the cosmos, a singular soul stood at the threshold of destiny's grand design. It was a soul chosen by the divine, a beacon of hope and salvation in the vast, often indifferent tapestry of existence. The chosen one, endowed with an ethereal aura that shimmered like the morning dew on the petals of a sacred lotus, found himself teetering on the precipice of a profound and unsettling truth. The world's inherent hatred towards him was not born out of inherent malice, but rather an enigmatic and paradoxical necessity of his divine mission. The skies, painted in hues of twilight, whispered ancient secrets to those who could hear secrets that spoke of an ancient covenant, a promise made by the divine that the world would come to understand through the trials and tribulations that the chosen one would endure. To be the vessel of this promise was a mantle that bestowed both an honor and a curse, a gift and a burden, a light that illuminated the path, but cast shadows upon those who bore witness to its radiance. With each step taken upon the sacred path, the chosen one felt the weight of countless prayers and whispered hopes nestled within his heart. He traveled through valleys where the air was thick with the scent of sacred herbs, and climbed mountains where the highest peaks only served to heighten the clarity of his divine purpose. Each mountain summit and valley trough echoed with the reverberations of celestial hymns, the notes of which whispered ancient truths into his soul, reminding him of the gravity of his mission. The chosen one's mission was not one of conquest or the promulgation of a doctrine, but rather an act of profound humility and relentless truth. In a world often ensnared by the vices of ambition and the delusions of power, he sought to remind the hearts of men of the sacredness of their own souls, to rekindle the flicker of the divine within them, and to guide them toward a deeper understanding of their interconnectedness with the cosmos and each other. The irony and paradox lay in the fact that the very purity and clarity of his mission became the very seeds of his alienation and suffering. Each town he passed through, each village that harbored him for the briefest of moments in their humble abodes, bore witness to the paradox of his existence. Here in the simplicity of human life, the chosen one found both solace and torment. The children's eyes, wide with wonder and hope, would follow his every move, their innocent gazes reflecting a purity that the world rarely possessed. Yet the adults, steeped in the mire of doubt, skepticism, and sometimes outright hostility, could not see beyond the shimmering light that surrounded him. They perceived him only as a threat to their own fragile equilibrium, a disruption to the mundane rhythms of their existence, and thus turned away from him in fear and misunderstanding. In these towns, the chosen one often found himself in the company of those who, like him, sought the divine truth. The wise men and women, the hermits and ascetics, the visionaries and poets, these kindred spirits, though few, offered solace and understanding. It was in their silent communion, in the shared silences and whispered secrets, that the chosen one found a semblance of peace. They taught him the language of the cosmos, the ancient dialect of stars and shadows, and the subtleties of divine love that flowed through all creation. But the world, in its obtuseness and ignorance, could not comprehend the depth of his mission. Their disdain turned to rage, their fear to hatred, and their ignorance to resentment. They misunderstood the sacred silence that enveloped him, the calm that belied the tempest within his soul, and the compassion that transcended their petty grievances and trivialities. They saw him only as an intruder upon their fragile existence, a harbinger of change that they could not easily digest. The night skies were often his solace, the stars a testament to the vastness of the divine plan, each a witness to the chosen one's unwavering commitment to his divine purpose. As he gazed upon the celestial tapestry, he understood that his suffering was but a thread woven into the cosmic loom, a necessary part of the grand design. It was not a mere accident or a cruel twist of fate, but a profound testament to the complex interplay of light and shadow, of love and suffering that defined existence. In the stillness of the night, the chosen one would often recall the ancient words of the celestial sages who spoke of the trials that the chosen souls must endure. They spoke of the need for patience, for perseverance, for the unwavering faith that even the darkest night must give way to the dawn. And so he steeled his heart against the world's hatred, knowing that his mission was not to win over the multitudes, but to be a beacon of truth and compassion in an often darkened world. The world's hatred towards him was a crucible, a fiery furnace within which his spirit was tempered and refined. It was a paradox, a testament to the divine irony that the more pure and selfless one's mission, the more it often elicits resistance and revulsion from a world that had grown numb to the very essence of its own creation. Yet, in this crucible, the chosen one found his true strength, the clarity of his vision, unclouded by the pettiness and petulance of the world around him. For it was in the heart of this crucible that the chosen one discovered the true essence of his divine mission, to illuminate the path for others, to offer a glimmer of hope where despair reigned, to remind the world of its own sacredness and the boundless potential that lay within it. It was a mission that transcended the ephemeral struggles and conflicts that often divided mankind, a mission born of the purest light and destined to illuminate the darkest corners of the soul. And so the chosen one continued his journey, unwavering and resolute, carrying the weight of the world's hatred upon his shoulders, yet undeterred in his divine mission. For in the end, it was not the world's hatred that defined him, but the luminous truth that he carried within, a truth that would continue to shine like a beacon in the night, guiding all who would heed its call towards the dawn of a new and enlightened age. The silence of the night was punctuated only by the whisper of the wind, a haunting melody that seemed to echo the profound burden shouldered by a lone figure standing upon a desolate hill. The chosen one, an unassuming shepherd by day, was now the beacon of hope and despair, a paradox so profound that even the heavens held their breath in reverent silence. This shepherd, anointed by the divine, with a mission more monumental than any mortal had ever conceived, bore the weight of infinite destinies upon his fragile shoulders. In the deep of night, The chosen one knelt and clasped his weathered hands, his eyes fixed upon the heavens as if drawing strength from the celestial tapestry above. Each star seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow, whispering secrets of ancient prophecies. The cosmos had conspired to place this shepherd in a role that transcended time, a vessel for a cosmic will that was both merciful and implacable. A soft ethereal glow emanated from within him, a light that transcended the mortal realm, illuminating the path that stretched before him like an endless shimmering road. This was no mere mortal path. It was the highway of salvation or damnation, the bridge that would either unite hearts or divide them irreparably. Each step, each breath, each heartbeat was a promise to fulfill a destiny dictated by the divine. The shepherd's heart pounded violently within his chest, like a drumbeat of both terror and exhilaration. He was not just an instrument of divine will, he was the embodiment of redemption's hope. To falter was to condemn countless souls to oblivion, while to succeed was to usher in an age of enlightenment and peace. This duality, a spectral chiaroscuro, cast long shadows over his spirit, threatening to diminish the very essence of his being. Through the night air, a subtle vibration seemed to ripple through the atmosphere, an echo from the depths of existence. The chosen one raised his head, his eyes awash with an unearthly light as the divine presence enveloped him. The celestial voice, a harmony so pure, it felt like 1,000 suns kissing his soul, reverberated through the caverns of his spirit. Child of the eternal flame, heed my call. Your path is fraught with shadows, yet it is the path of righteousness. You are the harbinger of an era where love shall eclipse hatred and darkness shall be banished by light. You are the balm for the world's weary soul. Your mission is to unveil the truth, to cleanse the heart, and to illuminate the path forward for those who are lost in the mists of ignorance. The shepherd's eyes shone like polished emeralds, the clarity of his purpose shining through the fog of doubts and fears that had once threatened to overwhelm him. He understood now that his mission was not merely to conquer, to lead, or to rule. It was an act of divine mercy, a chance to shepherd souls away from the precipice of destruction and into the fertile fields of enlightenment. A surge of divine energy coursed through him, fortifying his spirit with an ethereal strength that could withstand any trial. He rose, his heart alight with an unwavering resolve, his soul imbued with the divine fire that would burn away the shadows of doubt and fear. The chosen one had now embraced his true identity, a mere mortal, no longer but a divinely appointed emissary. As daybreak approached, the horizon began to blush with the first rays of sunlight, casting a golden hue that seemed to herald a new epoch. The chosen one's eyes, now aglow with the fervor of his mission, scanned the horizon, where mountains stood sentinel over a world teeming with potential and peril. His journey had only just begun. With each step forward, the shepherd's soul intertwined with the divine purpose that governed the cosmos. He moved as though borne on wings, his steps leaving imprints upon the earth that would resonate through the annals of time. He was now an instrument of change, a bearer of hope, a protector of the innocent, and a herald of peace. As the world began to stir with the awakening of a new day, the chosen one paused to gaze upon the vast expanse that lay before him. This was not just a path of his making. It was a journey that transcended the individual, echoing through the ages as a testament to the power of divine love and the indomitable spirit of those chosen to bear its burden. In this moment, the shepherd understood that his mission was not his alone to fulfill. It was a collective endeavor, one that required the participation of every soul that chose to walk the path of righteousness. To be the chosen one meant to inspire, to guide, to uplift, and to lead others towards the light. It meant to become a beacon in the darkest of nights, a guiding star for those lost in the maelstrom of despair. Thus, with a heart full of divine purpose and a spirit fortified by celestial might, the chosen one embarked upon his journey, knowing that the world would neither understand nor welcome him easily. Yet he bore his cross, with a grace and an unwavering faith that could only come from one who had glimpsed the face of the divine. The chosen one had entered a realm where love and truth would clash with hatred and deception, where light would battle shadow, and where the fate of worlds would hinge upon the choices of individuals. In this realm, he would not merely be the shepherd of souls, but the architect of a new era, a harbinger of a world where love reigned supreme and hope was an indomitable truth. In the quietude of dawn, a pale light broke through the heavy shroud of night, casting an ethereal glow upon the figure who stood at the edge of destiny's precipice. The chosen one's heart was a tempest of conflicting emotions, a whirl of the sacred yet sundered. This was no ordinary soul. God's final word had been committed to flesh a vessel of divine purpose, to bear the burden with unwavering fidelity. The mission was both an honor and an agony, an unendurable cross to be borne with faith and fortitude. The chosen one stood on a high cliff, overlooking the vast, sprawling world that lay below, a world steeped in ignorance, steeped in suffering, yet brimming with potential for redemption. Each breath drew in the scent of pine and salt, a reminder of the earth's ageless embrace. In the distance, the first rays of sunlight glinted off the ocean, where ancient mariners once sought the horizon chasing shadows of their dreams. Yet here, on this singular moment, the chosen one felt the weight of countless ages resting on his shoulders. A subtle whisper seemed to permeate the very essence of the universe, a breath of God's omniscience that caressed the soul of the chosen one, a divine caress that imparted clarity amidst the chaos of existence. This divine whisper was neither loud nor commanding, but a delicate hum, an intimate symphony that resonated with the very core of the chosen one's being. This is your burden, and through this burden, you shall become the bridge. You shall traverse the chasm between darkness and light. It was a sacred trust bestowed by a power beyond comprehension. The mission was not merely to heal, but to transform the very fabric of reality, a mission shrouded in sacred scripture and prophecy. The scriptures that had been etched into the depths of the chosen one's soul spoke of ancient prophecies, the cycles of creation and destruction, the eternal dance of light and shadow. These words were not mere tales. They were a living testament to the eternal struggle between the divine will and the human flaw. To be the chosen one meant to be an instrument of this eternal struggle, to bear the light of hope in a world often inclined to darkness. As the chosen one stood there, he was acutely aware of the myriad eyes that were upon him, unseen but ever present. The world in its myriad forms, human and divine, had its gaze fixed upon this singular soul. Every village, every city, every soul carried within it the weight of expectation, the hope for salvation, the fear of damnation. To some, he was a savior, an anointed beacon of light. To others, he was a heretic, a prophet in the wrong place, an enemy to be shunned or persecuted. The chosen path was one of solitude, but not in the traditional sense of loneliness. It was a path crowded with divine whispers, with the murmurs of 1,000 prophets before him, guiding, admonishing, and reassuring. It was a path laden with symbols, sacred and profane, each stone and twig along the way, testament to past sacrifices, to the myriad lives that had paved the way for his own mission. Each footfall resonated with the echoes of the past, each breath a homage to the eternal silence of the divine. The chosen one's hands were not idle. They were instruments of a higher purpose, healing, teaching, sanctifying. Each act was not merely physical, but imbued with the sacred essence of divine will. To touch was to touch the very soul of creation. To heal was to mend the very fabric of the divine tapestry. The chosen one moved through the world like a weaver threading the endless loom of existence, each stitch a prayer, each weave a testament to divine love. Yet the weight of this mission bore down upon him with the inevitability of fate. It was a burden not easily understood, a cross not easily borne. There were moments when the chosen one found himself engulfed in a maelstrom, even of doubt, questioning the righteousness of his path. Was he truly the harbinger of change, or merely a pawn in a grander divine scheme? In such moments, the whispers of God would return soft, yet insistent, a lullaby to quiet the storm of self-doubt. "You are not alone, my child," the divine whisper would echo in the chambers of his soul. "You are the voice of an eternal truth, the echo of a timeless call. You are the bridge." And in those hushed moments, the chosen one would find solace, renewed strength, and a clarity that transcended the mundane. The journey was long,